In the last 20 years, since Roundup has gotten used on a lot of acres, and now we're seeing these new traits come out where more dicamba will be sprayed, more 2,4-D will be sprayed, a lot of people have really been looking at, oh boy, I gotta do something for spray drift reduction. I could go ahead and use a drift retardant, but I don't know if I really want to do that. So what should I do for spray nozzles?
Well, first of all, when you're going to be switching from one product to another product, it makes a lot of sense that, you know what, they may need a little coverage difference, they may need larger or smaller droplets. So on sprayers in general, we recommend having at least triple nozzle bodies, if not 5-way nozzle bodies. And I think as we see more trait packages coming, more combinations being used on the farm, whether that's multiple herbicides or a herbicide plus a fungicide or plus an insecticide or plus a fertility product, we need to have choices out there as we're spraying. So the multiple nozzle body is tremendously important. Then I just think about, all right, am I going to add lots of other stuff into the tank every time I make a switch, or am I going to switch to a different nozzle? Picking the right nozzle is going to be absolutely critical to making these things work.
Okay, there are two main things we're trying to accomplish. Number one, we want to have great weed control. And don't forget, that's number one. Number two, we want to reduce drift. All right, there's a third thing out there. It's called volatility. There's not much you can do with your spray nozzle in terms of volatility. That's really the product and when you spray. And by volatility, what we mean is the product lands on the leaf and then it gets up and moves, maybe later that day or right away the next morning. There could be a lot of factors that lead to that, but for the most part, we've eliminated a lot of the products that have a whole lot of volatility. We still get a little bit concerned about the old 2,4-D, not the new one, and the old Banville and Clarity. Yes, those are concerns. But let's talk about what we can control. Since we can't control the volatility, we can control the physical spray drift. Okay, the number one way with these spray nozzles that people are controlling the spray drift is by making the droplet size bigger. When the droplet is bigger, it weighs more, it gets down faster, it has less chance to get up in the air. So that's in effect all we're doing with these spray nozzles is making droplets bigger. But the flip side of that is when we make the droplets bigger, do we have better or worse spray coverage? Well, we have worse spray coverage. So now we've made the droplet bigger, but we have hurt weed control. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying, oh, we were killing 99% of the weeds, now we're only killing 50% of the weeds. No, it's not that. It's just a very subtle thing. And here's what we always tell people. Here's our general rule. My very quick summary of this is spray your weediest fields on the very best, calmest spray days and use regular flat fan nozzles or extended range flat fan nozzles so we have smaller spray droplets. Then on the windier days, and I'm not saying windy, I'm saying windier, like 5 miles, 8-mile-an-hour wind, whatever, depending on your product. You got to check the label, make sure you're still on label. That's where you can switch over to these drift reduction nozzles, get a bigger spray droplet. But hey, if it's a cleaner field and you only have 100 weeds to kill, who cares if you don't have quite 99.9% control? But if you've got 100 million weeds in the field, these drift reduction nozzles may not be the answer.
Here's one of the challenges though, as new products get labeled. For example, new formulations of dicamba specifically designed for the new Extend traits, they're going to actually be required on the label that you have to use a certain type of nozzle. Now you may say, well, wait a second, I'm spraying Liberty over here, or I'm spraying Sharpen over here, or some different herbicide or fungicide that I need small droplets and just excellent coverage. That's fine, but now you switch to this new dicamba and you all of a sudden have to use this nozzle with great big droplets. So you're going to need those multiple nozzle bodies again, as I was mentioning, and then you're going to have to pick which nozzles are going to be on there. For me, for sure, I want to have an extended range flat fan nozzle out there so when I am using a product that I can have fine little droplets and get great coverage, I'm going to have that option available to me, but I'm also going to have one of these nozzles with the great big droplets for certain products that I'm worried about physical drift.
All right, there are a lot of new spray nozzles coming on the market, and for some of them, we haven't even had the chance to test them yet. People are talking about, well, different types of air injection. I mean, a lot of different new things, and we encourage you to research them, look at them, test them out. We'll be testing more of those as they come out, but when we don't even have products labeled, like for example, the new dicamba that's coming out or the new 2,4-D that's coming out, they weren't releasing that product early enough to us. Usually we can get those things a year or two in advance, we can try all the new things out, and then talk to you about it. Well, in this case, we really haven't been able to do that. But the big summary that we have here for you is, yes, we want you to consider these spray nozzles nozzles that reduce drift, and in some cases you're going to be required to use them, like Darren said, with some of the new products out there. But that doesn't mean that you're going to have great weed control to go along with your reduced drift, so keep that in mind.
And fortunately too, as you're required to use some different nozzles, there are going to be some programs from these companies that are developing the new herbicides to help you buy those. Make sure you take advantage of those programs to help reduce your costs and your investment on the farm. And then when you buy that new nozzle, find the one that works for all those products instead of, well, hey, this one works with Enlist, but it doesn't work with Extend. Find one that works with both traits so you don't have to get 18 nozzles for each spot on your spray.
But like Darren said earlier, you are going to most likely need 3 different nozzles or even 5 on your farm. So get a 3-way or a 5-way nozzle body that'll really help you out.
One of the weeds that you may be targeting with all these spray nozzles is our weed of the week. Can you identify this week's weed?